There is power in a story, and we all have a story. Our stories, if told, can inspire, encourage, and motivate. Hi, I am Rhonda, and welcome to the Book of Lives. Hi everyone, welcome to the Book of Lives. Today we're going to hear the story of a Kansas City community advocate who has a passion for youth, at-risk youth, and their families. Hi Frank.
Hello,
How are you doing?
I'm doing great on this fine Labor Day.
Beautiful. So tell me a little bit about who you are, what's your background, and how come you came to be doing this type of work?
I am one of three children, son of a pastor, grew up in the church from Southern California.
I had no clue you were a pastor's kid.
Yeah, pastor's kid, yep. Um, and I grew up in the suburbs. I grew up in the streets of LA. And then as I got older, I moved around a little bit, ended up here in Kansas City. Um, when I worked for Sprint Wireless for about 10 years. And then I worked for the state of Missouri for another 10 years. And that's where I kind of reconnected with my own experience being around the streets and, helping kids make it through things that I went through. So that's how I kind of ended up here, just kind of a long road to where I'm at right now.
A nice, long, and interesting road, I'm sure.
Yes, definitely. Lots of ups and downs for sure.
Mhm. I know for me, working with kids can be overwhelming. That's one, and two, it certainly can pull on your heartstrings. What motivates you? What keeps you going?
Well, I remember when I was 12 years old, introduced to the very cold and hard streets of Los Angeles, gangs all around me, death all around me. And my walk with God was really relevant at that point because I learned how to walk with Him and how to be alone with Him, feeling like I'm not really alone. And so it didn't matter. That's where my courage was built. That's where my bravery was established. And my faith was really put together through experiences, surviving lots of things. So I'd say, whenever times would get tough, my faith and having that experience of going through real experiences, um, experiencing violence, but not returning violence, experiencing anger and hatred, but not returning that upon people, and learning about how to walk in grace, those things really kind of, that's the center of who I am. So when times get tough, I can always go back to kind of that faith basis, things that got me through my experiences that were very traumatic.
What are some of the big issues that kids, young people today have to face?
Well, it's trauma is the primary thing. And, where that trauma comes from, the hand that delivered that trauma to you, whether it was a relative, a stranger, or just an experience. Maybe there's no one person. Maybe it was hunger that traumatized you as a child. Maybe it was poverty. Maybe it was health, poor health that traumatized you. Um, Trauma is the biggest thing that our children face in the cities and the suburbs. And healing a child helps them move forward with their life, and they can pay that forward by helping others heal. But if they never heal, then really, the old saying, hurt people hurt people.
Yes.
So it's a cascading problem that, I've worked hard to try and insert some care, insert some love so that I can stop the cycle, at least help stop the cycle for some of these families that for generations, incarcerated parents, grandparents incarcerated, just, the life expectancy for the inner city in Kansas City is about 10 years less than people who live in the suburbs. And so people die sooner in urban families. So you don't have grandma as long. That's traumatic. You don't have any senior leaders in your circle. So those things, those are the biggest issues: families, trauma, those things that to me are the most difficult problems to solve.
If it's okay, do you mind telling us a little bit about some of the programs that you actually worked on, perhaps a program that you created, developed, piloted?
Yeah, so there's a couple things that I feel pretty proud of. So when I worked for the state of Missouri, I was the program manager for an alternative high school that also doubled as a resource center. So it was called the Alternative Resource Center, and we primarily served youth that were transitioning from being locked away in a state facility for a year, and they needed to learn how to reintegrate into the community. And so teaching life skills, teaching, helping them finish high school, preparing them to continue their education, or how to live self-sufficient without resorting to criminality, those things. And that I did that for a long time. And there's a lot of violence in Kansas City, and a lot of those kids, I've had kids who were killed in that process. I've had kids who made it in that process. And that's one of the things I'm very proud of, is the relationships and the bonds that I was able to form with people who were as rough around the edges as you can imagine. And then another program that I was privileged to be able to work on is a program that had police officers in the Kansas City community paired up with teenagers in the Kansas City community who were in the juvenile justice system, and they could meet once a week to just grow closer, just to eliminate the distance between them and share experiences. And one of the things I came away from that with is the awareness that a lot of those police officers and a lot of those teenagers who would normally be afraid of each other or maybe be angry toward each other, they learn just how similar they really are to each other. A lot of those officers were traumatized teens growing up, and a lot of those teenagers really don't have a reason legitimately to hate that officer. They just are repeating what they've heard, what they've seen on social media. So a lot of awareness and learning and discovery in that. So those are two things that I'm really proud of.
The issue with young people and the police, I know it's quite a sensitive one. We won't touch on that, at least not right now. But what is the most satisfying part of what you do?
I would say the most satisfying part is being able to shine a light in a very dark place. A dark place where you tend to feel isolated because there's not a whole lot of support in those dark places. As a kid, if you don't have food, you can go to a food bank and get, some canned goods. You can get a bag of groceries. If you need clothing, you can go to a place and get clothes. But if you need peace, there's really not a place for you. I mean, churches on Sunday, maybe before COVID, might have been an option. You could just walk in and connect with people there. But now, where do you go as a teenager? Where do you go? And to be able to walk the same streets with those kids and meet them where they were, knocking on their door, talking to their parents, working with their families in the nitty gritty of their experience, it takes a lot of courage. It takes a lot of bravery. It takes a lot of security on the inside to be able to go in and deliver someone. You can't just expect someone to come to where you are in your place of safety when they don't have safety. So creating that sense of safety for an unsafe child is one of the biggest successes in my life. And it's just something that I feel like there's so much more to do in that regard.
Mhm. I like that you said you work with the kid and the families. I think oftentimes we take the kid out and we try to fix the kid, not realizing that the kid has to go back into this chaotic environment. So I really like that you work with the kid and the family. So what's next for you, Frank? I know you have lots of dreams, lots of goals. Want to share one or two with us?
Yes, definitely. So, through my long winding road in my career, I find myself now in the healthcare field. And I'm the director of a local health center that is based right in the heart of the inner city. And so, approaching that care and concern from now a health perspective, being able to maybe eliminate or help eliminate some of the health disparities with the urban families, the life expectancy, eliminating barriers to healthcare. So it's like just another layer of, those social services that are so sorely needed in the community. And so I'm excited about creating new programs that have never been done in healthcare before, because I come from a different perspective. I can take those resources and repackage them to reach a population that hasn't been reached in the past, a very mistrustful population, a population that's been traumatized and wounded. And you have to earn that trust.
Yes.
You have to get to know you first. And so I've met people in the healthcare field who would never be willing to go to those doors, but they will send me. And so I'm very excited about the opportunity to bring some resources together to really help these families elevate out of their traumatizing experiences.
Mhm. You know, I love your story. You said at the beginning you have experience on the streets and then you're a pastor's kid. Could you, before we close, drop some knowledge, some advice for young people out there? What have the streets taught you? What advice would you give?
Well, I'll tell you this. I've learned a lot from the church, growing up in the grassroots of the church. I'm not talking about some mega church. I'm talking about this is a family church. There's
Mhm.
15 women in there. If you don't pay the light bill, ain't no lights on Sunday. Okay, that's my experience. And then from the street side,
Mhm.
seeing the grit and just the nature of the streets, you know, I've learned that you have to be a real person. You have to be connected with your humanity in order to elevate someone beyond their humanity. You can't just take someone and make them an angel.
Yeah.
You have to, that's what Jesus Christ did. He wrapped himself in flesh. He became as real of a human being as he possibly could, so that his testimony matches ours. He can relate to us because of his humanity. It's not the fact that he had all power in his hand. Yes, that's true. But it's the fact that he bled just like us. That's the power of the gospel. And so the streets respect real. The church respects real. And so being real, being grounded, being rooted in your humanity, you're going to make mistakes. You're going to do things that are wrong. You're gonna go in the wrong direction from time to time, but grace is a gift that is given that hasn't been earned. And so if you continue to walk in grace, allow yourself to be forgiven, forgive yourself for your mistakes, and that way you can always stay rooted and grounded no matter how successful you get. And to me, that is just the biggest thing, is just always stay real, always stay rooted in something real. Keep your foundation solid, because the more you grow, the higher up you go, you could lose the connection with reality. And for me, I don't ever want that to happen.
So stay grounded and stay real.
Yes, definitely.
Good. Frank, thank you so much. I wish you all the best in your endeavors. I appreciate you stopping by to share a bit of your story with us.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. And for those of you who are watching, thank you. Until next time, stay inspired. Bye bye.